Hey guys, welcome back to another video. Today I've got this John Deere LA125 on the rack. It's a resale purchase. I picked it up yesterday, matter of fact, which has no reference to the current time of uploading because I save them. I save videos and I upload them once a week, but anyways, it's the summer of 2021 right now. I don't know when this is going to be released. Anyways, just a preliminary once over on this thing. It's in really good shape. This machine was working when the customer, well, when the seller sold it to me, it was working. He upgraded to a bigger machine and sold his old one off. But look at this thing. It's nice. I've done just a quick once over on it, and because I have to order parts for another machine that I've got outside, and I might as well make one order and get all the parts I need. So I'm just walking over this thing to see what I need to order to get it all together in one shot. So it's got a 21 horse single cylinder Briggs. Definitely needs the deck redone. It's rusty. I did spin, the blades are demolished. It looks like he used it as a trencher. Blades are wrecked. This bearing set over here on this spindle is really quiet. It's nice. The idlers are quiet. The belt's a little worn. It's going to get a new one, so I've already got that written down on my list. The other blade is demolished, and the bearings are noisy on the other side. So I'm going to pull that spindle out, and I'm going to see what kind of bearings are in it. It might be the standard bearing that I stock. If not, I'll have to order them. But other than that, I mean, like, the machine doesn't need anything. It runs just fine. We're going to do a tune-up. It's got 198 hours on it. 2 hours away from John Deere's recommended interval for valve adjustment, which we're going to do. Regular tune-up stuff. Fuel filter's got a little bit of crud in it. You can see it. We're going to change that anyways. We're going to change the spark plug, do the normal tune-up stuff, but it runs fine. It actually cuts grass, not too bad. Blades are bent, but it still cuts. A nice running machine. So what I'm going to do is I am going to drop the deck out of the machine, and I'm going to get the machine off the hoist, and then I'll have the deck on the lift itself, and then I can get into it, because there's nothing to do on the machine other than the valves and the tune-up, so that can be done at any time. But I'll get the deck figured out and get my bearings ordered and see what happens. But first, check out my intro. Okay, let's drop this deck out of here. It's actually pretty simple. The newer it seems to me like the newer the machine, the easier and easier they're getting to disconnect these decks. It's pretty straightforward. It's not too crazy on these. So at the front, there's one clip, one hairpin that holds a rod in. It's got a washer behind it. Let's get that out, save it. There, the front hanger's off. I've flipped the belt off the engine pulley already and just kind of worked it around the keepers, the little rods. So it's just, the belt's just hanging on the deck right now. This is our engagement cable. There's one hairpin here. Slide it out of the bracket. It's more like an MTD style cable. Unhook it. There's our engagement cable. Get up there. Just find a spot to be. I don't want you in the way. Just gonna hang it under the seat here. There we go. Okay, there's a rod here, hairpin, washer, rod pulls off. That's just a lift rod. This is your height adjustment rod here. You can adjust for leveling. Hairpin, washer, rod comes down, tilts, and removes. Straightforward. This side's off. Gonna go to the other side, get the lift rod off, get the adjustment rod off, and then we should be able to slide the deck out. Hairpin, washer, lift rod, and back here, hairpin, washer, and the height rod. quarter turn, height rod comes out. It's got a oblong slot in it. The deck is free and clear. There's a lot of grass on the top of this deck. It was worse. There was like bales of hay on top of this deck. We got some foliage in here. Got some tree branches. Need a chainsaw to get that one out? No, it should be fine. But there's like an acre of grass under here. There's lots. Smells like a compost pile. Ow! There's a thorn in there. Not nice. Got me. All right, I'm gonna get the shop vac and I'm gonna vacuum this out of here. I don't want to dig through it again. It got me once. I'm gonna clean this up, get it off the lift. We'll get the tractor out, put the deck back on the lift, and we'll turn the camera back on. Okay, after getting 3 bales worth of grass underneath this thing scraped out and sucked off the top here and all vacuumed off, it's still a mess. Paint is terrible. Horrible. Let's scrape it and we'll buzz it all down and prime it and paint it. The rest of the tractor's in good shape. Let's get these covers off, see what kind of mess we're into. One there, one there. Yeah, it's still got grass under it. Couldn't get all of it out with a vacuum cleaner. Well, we got most of it. One here. One here. They were half in. That one there. There we go. The belt is worn. It's not broken. I mean, it was being used, but it is worn. So let's get that off of there. Oh yeah. So I have to unbolt that. We have to unbolt this. That pulley's all right. That one seems all right too. We're gonna leave that. Leave both of those. But first, let's just spin this. Oh, it's on the brake. Let's pull the brake off. Oh, that one's nice and quiet. Stop. Spin this one. Maybe not, because the blade is sitting on the bench. Let's get something here. Okay, there we go. Come on, just behave. There we go. Loosen the brake off. Let's give this one a spin. That's noisy. Let's pull this spindle out of here. So it comes up from the bottom, is bolted from the top. We take the pulley off, take the bolts off, the spindle should come out the bottom. In theory. Let's try it. But I think we gotta let's get that belt all the way off of there. It is neither one of those. 5/8. Nope. Metric. It's 15. In between 9/16 and 5/8 is 15. That one was good and on there. So just nuts warm. That's a little snug on there. It doesn't want to slide off so easy. We're going to just give it a little coating of anti-seize before we put it back on there, after the new belt's on. Just put that back on there so we don't lose our hardware. That would come off a little easier. Belt's off. Like I said, we're going to anti-seize it anyways, but just loose for now. It's not terrible, but it's going to get a new one. I'll wrap this up. Done. Nice and small. Fits in the garbage better. Okay, this one here, metric. Where do we start? 22? No, that's far too small. Ah, 7/8. What's that, 22? It is 22. It's got a hex in that pulley there to drive it, to drive the spindle. I think this blade's whacked something hard at one point because it was just kind of canted off a little bit. Some more of this stuff. Aha! We have a grease fitting on the side of this spindle. Let's see if it actually greases the bearing. We will see. I believe that's a spacer that comes off. It's been actually a little while since I've had a John Deere deck apart. One of these newer fandangled ones. Let's get these 410s out of here. 1, 2, 3, 4. Spindle fell out. Come on out. Well, there we go. Spindle's still attached. Yeah, listen. That's pretty noisy. Let's get that blade off of there. We have to anyways. That's probably not that. Yeah, that's probably 15/16. Wherever that is, I think that one is actually out on the bench because I was using it on the MTD mower I had in here just before this one. Well, let's see if this little gun will take that off. Oh yeah, she's got the power. She's got the power. Nut, washer, and typical John Deere being weird, 7-point star. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yep, 7-point star. That's groovy. Yeah. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna put it in the vise, set it here, and then pound this out here. Let me show you the. See that grease fitting on the side right there? We're gonna find out if it's actually doing anything. Because they usually don't. All right, we'll get you turned around and zoomed in over there on the vise, and we'll beat the living crap out of this thing and see if we can get it to come apart. These bearings look smaller than the standard MTD bearings. I might actually have some though. We'll find out. Stand by. All right, we've got to sit in the vise as flat as we can anyways. And we're going to drive the shaft out the bottom of it. So there's a spacer here that's it's around the shaft, so we need to drive everything through. So everybody knows that you put the nut back on your threads so you don't damage the end of this and mushroom it all out. But something, I go a little further sometimes, where I'll put the socket back on the nut and hit the socket with a hammer. That way it doesn't mushroom anything. It's actually pushing on the socket or on the nut itself. Prevents damage. And then it's moving. I have to back the nut off a little bit because we ran out of threads. And now it's sitting on the bottom of the vise. There we go. Just go gentle here. It's coming out pretty easy. Oh, there we go. Fell right out. There's that weird spacer. There's the shaft. And there's our spacer here, one bearing here. All right, so like I said, we're gonna see if that grease fitting is doing anything. So this is the lower bearing here. Upper bearing is still up in here. Let me get you close on that. See that black part right there? That is a seal. It prevents stuff from getting in the bearing, which means the seal that's on the top of this one and the seal that's on the bottom of the upper bearing, those seals prevent grease from going into them. So why on earth did they put a grease fitting there? It does nothing. It packs the cavity here with a spacer, it'll pack that with grease, and that's it. It does not grease the bearings. I know. Crazy. Just crazy. This has got a bunch of crap wrapped around it. So I'm gonna buzz it, excuse me, I'm gonna buzz this down on the wire wheel, clean that up. Let's see if we can get this bearing to come out of here. What's our number on there? Might have it, I might have it. 6203. 6203. I think I got some of them. 6204 is a bigger bearing, and that's what MTD uses on most of their stuff. This is a smaller bearing. All right, I'm gonna clean that up, and I'm not sure if that bearing is gonna walk off there real easy or not. It seems to be actually moving. Maybe. Huh, now I'm curious. Curious if I can just get something in there and just tap a little screwdriver or a small chisel just to get that bearing worked out of its spot. Oh. It's moving. And then it popped back in. Oh, now it's stuck. Now you did it. No, it's actually moving a little bit. Now we'll work away at this. It's not bad, actually. Oh, where are my screwdrivers? Just working it back and forth, see if I can get it just to slide out that shaft there. It's going. It's slow. So I'm going to work away at that. We'll get that bearing off of there. And we'll eyeball it against what I have in stock to see if what I have is going to work. Alright, so I got that bearing worked off of there. I checked the standard 6203 RS. And what is it? The inner bore was too small. So I have these ones. Inner bore is just fine. Well, that's the number I'm using. It's actually a Husqvarna part number. Let's see if we can get you zoomed in on that. There's your Husqvarna part number. The OD is the same, but the ID is a little bit bigger on these. And that's perfect. So there's a little bit of rust on that shaft. That's why it was a little harder to come out, but that's easy enough to... Falls right on now. Awesome. So that's that bearing. Let's just flip this over on the vise. We'll drive the other side out. There's my bearing punch. That bearing's out. But let me show you what we're gonna do with this. So we've got this new double sealed bearing. We're gonna pick this seal out of here. I'm gonna pop it out and leave it like this. Focus. We're just gonna leave the bearing exposed like this. That way when you actually grease the fitting on the side of that spindle, it greases the bearings. So I'm gonna do the same with a new one for the top. We're gonna pick one side out, and that's gonna be our top bearing. Yep, grease is exposed, so that's that. So we'll get that tap back in there. Spindle sitting nice and flat, so the sealed side will be out, open side will be in. Just gonna use this to make sure we get her kind of straight. That's in pretty well. Good. Flip her over. Spacer. Do not forget your spacer. We'll pop the shaft back through there. Slides right in. The other one was rusty. This one slides right in. Beautiful. The spacer goes on top of here. Tap her down. They get pushed together anyways once you tighten everything. The bearings tighten down on them. Just trying to get this to... The bearings clamp on the spacer that's in there. That's a lot quieter. Will you fit? Nope. Will you fit? Nope. Where's our nut for the bottom? There's the nut for the bottom. I don't want to wreck any threads, so get on there. I just want to set this, have some pressure on the bottom, holding the shaft up, so I can tap that top spacer. This one, I can tap that down, make sure it seats a little bit better. There, the sound changed, so that's bottomed out now. That's better. No play. Nice and quiet. So I'm going to throw that back under the deck. We can grease this, which is going to grease our bearings. That's good. Doesn't look like this one was ever greased anyways. There was no grease in the spindle, so nobody ever greased this in the first place. But now it'll actually do something. So I'm going to place that grease fitting in a position where you can get to it with a grease gun while all the shields and everything are on. That just makes it easier to get to and makes it easier to get the maintenance done on it. So, ooh, look at that garbage. Old grass. It's now liquid grass. All right, so that's what I'm gonna do. Pop it on the deck. I'll get this one bolted back up, and since the bearings are likely the same age, I'm just gonna go ahead and do the other side. But it's a case of second verse, same as the first. I'm not gonna record it because we just saw it, so we'll just move on to something else. Well, this is where we ended up. It's pretty flaky. Lots of paint coming off. It's very, very loose. Lots of rust under the paint. So I stripped it instead. Instead of putting the spindles on and all that stuff, I just stripped it down to what I want left on there. And I have a place I can take it to get sandblasted. So yeah, it's just too deep here. I mean, the rust scale and scabs is too deep. So even if I prime that, it's not gonna look nice because I just got, spray bomb primer. I've got a place that'll sandblast it and prime it with a nice thick heavy coat of primer for me. That way I can sand it down and get it smoothed out. And we'll get some JD yellow back on it. So yeah, I know what I need to order for the machine. It's already in my shopping cart. And once this gets blasted and primed, it'll come back and we'll start assembling stuff and hang it back another mower. All right, so I wasn't able to get that deck in there to get it blasted and primed, but I did the next best thing, which is scraped all the loose rust off with a scraper, putty knife, and I ran a wire cut brush on a grinder over the whole thing, got rid of the scabbies, and then I primed it nice and thick with some spray primer, let that dry, scuffed it off, and painted it John Deere Ag and Turf Yellow. Right there. I put the new blades on, and I put the new belt on. It's under the tractor right now, but it's not hooked up or anything. I pushed the unit up onto the hoist here. I didn't start it. It's been a couple of days now anyways, because I want to set the valves. I think it's got to be done on a cold engine, so you don't want to run it. You want to do it when it's stone cold. I did pressure wash everything, so it was nice and clean, and I noticed a puddle of oil underneath the valve cover. So we're going to take it off anyways. We're going to be putting a new gasket on that while it's apart. I stock them, so we'll put it on. It does need an oil change. It's pretty dirty. I do have oil in a filter for it. I've already checked the air filter. It's really clean, like it's like brand new clean, so we don't need to worry about that. Now it's just a matter of a little bit of maintenance. We're going to do the valves. It's like 1.2 hours away from the recommended interval for doing the valves, so now's the time to do it, which is every 200 hours. So we're going to set the valves, do an oil change, and hang the deck, and should be ready to go. Put it up for sale. We'll put a Randomwrenching next service due sticker underneath the hood. And yeah, throw it on the lawn for sale. So I'm going to get the hoist lifted up, get some tools gathered up, and we're going to check and set those valves. Okay, let's get them valves set. So I've already got the oil draining. I usually wait till the engine's warmed up, but yeah, it's working right now. We're going to let it drain for a while anyways. Let's get that cover off of there. Wow, that bolt's loose. That one was a little snugger. Is that a word? Snugger? Okay. They look like they're silicone on. It's got silicone up top here, so let's get a screws and driver in there and see if we can separate that without completely mangling the cover. That's coming off. There we go. I drained the oil because there's oil up in the head here. I can see where there's a spot of silicone that could have been leaking through. It's dirty oil, but there's no sludge in there, so that's okay. It needs to be changed, so we're gonna. So this here, I was gonna run that on a wire brush on the wire wheel on the grinder, and I'll get all that silicone off of there. And then we're gonna put that gasket on. So, so I've got the spark plug out for two reasons. First of all, we're gonna change it anyways. Second of all, makes it easier to rotate the engine over. I'll rotate the engine till one of those valves is all the way pushed. Come on, here we go. There's our exhaust valve opening. That's all the way down, which means this one will be all the way up. You know what? That's darn near perfect. There should be about 4 thou in there. 4 thousandths of an inch. Let's get our feeler blade out. What do we got? 2.5, 3 thou, 4 thou. There's 4. It's perfect. I'm not even going to change that. That's absolutely perfect. 4 thou. So the exhaust valve's coming up. Intake valve's going down. It's all the way down. This one should be 6 or so. Let's put our 4 thousandths away. Get a 6. A 7. There's 6. Make sure 5 isn't stuck to it. Nope, there we go. Actually, I think the spec is 4 to 6 on this one. I don't know. It's just a little snug at 6, but that's okay. Let's see if 5 fits in there. A little snug. 4 will do. Yep, there you go. 4 thou. I'm not touching them. I'm gonna leave them. They're in spec. I ain't gonna do nothing with it. So now we're just gonna fix that oil leak. I'm just gonna scrape the old silicone off here with a razor blade. And I'll clean that valve cover up. Screechy. Gaskets are cheap. I just put a gasket on it. I don't want to mess with silicone and stuff. I've had quite a few of these Briggsies. Briggsii? What's the plural of Briggses? Briggs? These Briggs engines? I don't know. I've had quite a few of them apart. The ones with silicone, in my experience, the ones with silicone tend to leak. The ones with gaskets, they can be like 20 years old and maybe a seepage, maybe no leak at all. But in my experience, the ones with the silicone on them, only silicone leak. Again, your mileage may vary. Just rambling on here about my own experience. Okay, well, I'm not gonna record me cleaning that part up, but I'm just, like I said, I'm gonna buzz that down on the wire wheel, clean it with some brake clean, and we'll fire that gasket onto there. All right, she's nice and clean, ready to go back on. We got thunder and rain moving in here, so I might have to pause recording because it gets extremely loud in this shop when it starts to rain on a tin roof and no insulation. So you might be hearing it in the background a little bit. We'll see how it goes. I'm just gonna get these buzzed down there real quick. And next, like I said, I've already got the oil draining, but next will be to change that filter out. And fuel filter. That's good enough. That will work. Yeah, so let's get that spark plug back in there. Well, not back in there. This is a new one. New spark plug back in. The thing runs great, so it's just maintenance. Put a spark plug in it. It's probably original. There we go. There's that. Plug wire, get on. You're there. Get. Oh, there we go. All right. So the little special oil spout drainer thing, it's just barely dripping out of there now. So get that popped back on. Slide our pan over so we can catch the drippings from the oil filter. Just spun over a little bit, maybe. Yeah, sure. So the pan's directly underneath the filter. So what I'm going to do to get most of the oil out of the thing, to try and help alleviate a mess, I usually drill a hole in them at the very bottom, where as much of the oil as possible is going to come out. There, we'll get that one a hole and put a hole up here. That lets it vent and it comes pouring out. That just gets a lot of the oil out of the filter before I gotta spin it off and spill it everywhere. So, well, I can see on my meter there on the camera that you guys are hearing the rain, so I'm gonna pause recording here. I'm just gonna spin a new filter on there. I'm gonna fill it up with oil, and I'm gonna change this fuel filter, just a couple of clips here. We'll come back in a couple minutes. All right, guys, let's do a real quick closeout video here. The rain's not letting up, and I'm done in the tractor anyway, so we're gonna close the video off instead of waiting another day to do it. Got other stuff to get in here. So this one here, we did 2 spindle bearings. I cleaned and painted the deck, new blades underneath it, new mower deck belt, spark plug, Oil and filter. Checked the valves, see if they needed to be set, and they were fine at 200 hours. That's your interval. 200 hours is what Briggs should get their at least inspected, have a look at them. But these ones were fine, didn't bother adjusting it. Did replace a gasket because the silicone on that was leaking. And yeah, seat's not even cracked on this Deere. That's good because they're a couple $100. They just look like trash with a cracked seat. I don't like them. I got to change them. So yeah, even the headlights work and everything. This is a good little unit. It's going to be a great mower for the next owner. Thanks for joining me, guys. Don't forget to give me a thumbs up, like, comment, and subscribe. Click that square over there, that little red one that says subscribe. If you do subscribe, click the bell icon. It'll notify you when I upload new videos. And until next one, take care.